Hi guys, welcome back to another GGF video review. Today we're taking a look at the relatively new Antec P380 tower. So Antec's sort of gone all out here and they've tried to bring out something a little bit different, something elegant. We're probably familiar with the long-running Antec P180, the 280, and even more recent they've had the Antec 900 and 1200. I believe they've had a 1900. I'm not sure how successful that was, but this is their brand new sort of, I'll probably call it a bit of a high-end tower. It's priced on this higher end of the market, so it's about $299 Australian. So first off, we'll see sort of what do you get for that. So first off, you'll see it's got a really nice, elegant sort of front panel, and also along the top. So it's not a unibody design. It is actually two separate pieces. So this on the front and on the top, it's actually not too easy to hear, but that's actually 4mm aluminium. So they've gone out with a nice thick top and the front, so it does give it a nice feel. Once you strip it down, I'll take the front and the top off, you'll actually see it is just sort of a standard case, but they've added these nice features on. Now first off, you'll notice it's got no optical drives. That's not a huge deal these days. I guess a lot of people are moving away from them. I still like them for things like fan controllers and bay reservoirs, things like that. More interesting is they've actually given you the two optical drive spots on the inside, but you don't get them on the outside. So I guess you can still shove some things in them on the inside. You just can't access them from the outside. What they've actually also done is in the front panel here, you can install this little thing that looks like a paddle. And you can put a slimline optical drive in, you insert that inside, and then you can actually have access for a slimline optical drive. So they have sort of thought of that if you really do need a Blu-ray burner or something like that. Some of the other unique features, you actually get dual power buttons on each side. So you've got one here, and you've actually got system was on. So you've got one on this side and the reset, and you've actually got one on the other side. Now they both work. They're split by a Y cable, so it's not either or. It's both of them. Now you've also got your two USB 3 up the top, your two USB 2. I'm not sure if we really need USB 2 these days. And you've got your audio headphones and your microphone jack there as well. Now you might be thinking sort of ventilation wise, is it just going to all be sucking through the panel? It's actually got little along the top, little slits all the way along. We'll see that when we take that off. And on the front, it's actually not sort of covered on the side, so you still got your standard fan grills on the front, and it's actually got quite a bit. I'd probably say that's about nearly an inch of space on in there. So some of the other features, it's got you can fit two 360mm radiators straight off. Bear in mind you do have to remove all the hard drive cages and all the SSD and the optical drive bays. So bear in mind, if you do fit the maximum radiator support, the two 360s, one in the front, one in the top, you will lose all your hard drive support. So to me, I think that's a bit of a downside. If you ever have to move hard drives to cater for something else, I would expect to have maybe one or two spots in sort of somewhere else in the case. Moving on to the motherboard support, just let me have a look. I think it supports all the way up to SSI CEB, so your server boards. It'll support your eATX all the way down to your mini ITX. So now it's probably not going to support your massive, huge long boards if you're installing radiators and that, but it does support your largest boards, and it does have your 9 PCI expansion slots, which I do like with that. Some of the more features, I don't have them, I'll grab them with me, but it does come with the two 140mm FDB fans installed up the top, so they are Antec's high quality fans, and it does come with one in the rear, which is the 120mm. So once I go over the system, I've actually got a system in it. I can't really sort of pull it out to go over the empty case. I have gone upgraded all the fans to the Antec True Quiet 120 UFO. Now these fans are really nice fans. The specs, like I've got these running on full ball, and they are really quiet. I'm just trying to see if they actually do tell you. I'd probably say that these would be under 20 decibels, but it doesn't say. But bear in mind, they don't come with the system. I built this for an Antec display, so I decked it out with Antec fans, Antec power supply. We've also got a sweet looking Edge 750 from Antec. They got the cool little rubber bits on the front and the back. So yeah, just if you're wondering why there's all this Antec gear in, it was just for an Antec display. Well, I guess we'll just sort of take off some of the covers and we'll have a bit of a closer look, and we'll see how it went with installing the water cooling gear. Alright, so we just got a little bit closer. Just starting off with what you get, as I mentioned, you get that paddle thing for the optical drive. you do get a sort of quick start manual, and you do get the heap of screws for mounting things like radiators and your motherboard risers and all those important things, which you get with most cases. Now this assembly here is the whole assembly that, we'll take this side panel off, that you actually pull out. It actually comes in a few spots, a few segments. So you've got, once this, it's just a little bit wobbly. Right, so you can imagine that's in the side of the case, so it breaks into 2, 3 and 3, so you can work your way down. You can maybe only want to put like a 240 radiator. You can keep some of the drive bays, but if you need 360, you need to take this whole lot out. So as you can see, they just simply slide out. I do kind of like it how they're just the more simple ones. They're not the ones that have the little latching door and you have to close. These just simply connect via slot in, and then you just push 2 little bits either side. And then these can support a standard 3.5-inch mechanical hard drive, and they can also fit a SSD as well. So you can fit 8 in here, so whether you want 8 SSDs, 8 hard drives, it's up to you. Alright, so that can go back out of the way. Alright, so just have a looking at the side panel. Now the side panel, the plexi on the inside is relatively thin, and it seems to just be stuck on by this large sort of sticky material. So it's not your traditional side panel that's kind of sort of attached by the little clips, and you have to push it in and clip it all around. So it's just done by some, let's see if I can probably pull it off. Probably not, but yeah, there we go. So you can actually see it uses a sort of a sticky thing on there, and it does come off. So I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. It probably saves on weight, but it may have a tendency to come off in the future. Alright, so moving on to the inside of the system. So you can see we've got plenty of room to work with. So we've gutted everything out, and you can see where I've just had to, actually I did this build in about a day. I did it nearly on the Friday before the last UGF, so I just quickly threw it in. I tried to make it look good. I did wish I had a bit more time to try and clean it up a bit. You'll see that on the rear side. I just had to throw it all in, and I just had to drastically put the SSD somewhere where it could show them off and sort of make them look good. So I just had to sort of stick them on the spare end of the motherboard tray, as you can see there. So not the best spot I would have wanted to, but once you take all the hard drive bays out, you just got nowhere to put anything else. And it doesn't even give you 2 on the motherboard tray. I guess if they gave you 2 on the motherboard tray, there is a heap of room there. I'll show you that later on. It's actually got really good clearance for storing cables, but it's just a shame they didn't. I guess you could put some down the bottom. Like there are some holes down the bottom, but they're definitely not SSD spaces. And it also said in the specifications that you can only fit 8 mechanical drives or 8 SSDs, so it would have mentioned them if you can put them somewhere else. So down the bottom you've got a fan filter for the power supply, which is nifty. I haven't really seen many cases where it comes out off the front. I think they're following the lines of the P380, which did that as well. And there's also a fan filter on the front, which we'll look at once we pull the front off. So moving the onto the top, there's just 2 thumb screws you take out here. So it's probably best not to lose these ones, because these ones are they're quite longer little thumb screws, because you have to go through the thick 4mm. So they are your standard thumb screw for side panels, but yeah, they are a little bit thicker. Now I'm not going to be able to get this off all the way, because I have sort of cable managed all the cables in there. Alright, so I just got a bit closer. So once you take the top off, you can actually see that the whole assembly comes with it, including the sides, and we'll see if we can get a shot at the vents. Yeah, so you can see all those vents on the side there. So that's where you're sucking the air through, not from the top, from these side vents. Now if you actually have a look, it can't get it any higher than this, unfortunately, but you can see down all the way inside where your cables connect to, and this is where I got the radiator installed. The only issue sort of thing I had was these tabs that the radiator is attached to are rather sort of flimsy. You'll probably find that these will bend. I can probably just see I just bent that one up just then. So they did use rather thin material, so once you are getting the radiator on, you can see there's quite a lot of flex in there. So just bear in mind when installing that, it is a little bit flimsy. And when we're talking about how much room we've got above the motherboard tray, we'll just drop this a bit. Alright, so there's probably not too much room, you can't really see, but this looks to be about I'd probably say this radiator is about 40 to 50 millimeters, and that's come right where the motherboard stops. So that's why I did put the fans on top. It does make it easier to screw in with the fans on the top, but yeah, there is more clearance than I expected, so I didn't have to fit the fans in top, which you can't really do. But yeah, much better than some cases with the radiator support up the top. Now moving on to the front, there are a few screws on the side you have to undo. There's one on the top you have to undo to let this latch go, and then once it's off you just simply pull it. It's got a lot of these sort of guiding pins in the holes, and then you've got the whole side panel off there. So it is a relatively nice sort of front panel. I mean, now it does sort of show fingerprints, but they do go away surprisingly. I'm not sure how, but it's probably just the moisture on your fingers, and then they disappear. So it's not too bad for fingerprints. You can see where the power buttons are. It's really hard to get that in there, but there's a power button on this side and the power button on this side, and then you've got the reset for each one. So it's good that you don't have the cables or the switches hardwired into this panel. They actually stay on the panel over here. So there's nothing worse than you try to pull off a front panel and you can only get it this far because there's switches and whatnot sort of stuck to the front panel. Moving on to the fan filter, it just pops out the bottom. So it seems like they've just focused on fan filters for the inputs on the front and the bottom for the power supply, which I think is all you need. I don't think you need fan filters where you're blowing out normally on the top and at the rear. So that can come out, and then that's just your standard pretty much honeycomb design with your fan filter like you get on most cases. And then you just have this here, and we'll just have a look at the if you were to install the weird CD-ROM thing. It kind of goes like this somehow, and then you can use that for an optical CD-ROM drive if people still use that. Alright, so moving on to the front itself. So yeah, they even do give you the little plates here. I'm not sure why. Let me just pull one off. Alright, so yeah, those little plates that you can cut out, because see, once you put this on, it is completely sealed. So you can see that is completely sealed there, and once you put it on, it's completely sealed on this side. So I guess that is, I don't know, if you do have a bay reservoir, you can still fill it up, but you can do all your adjustments and then you can whack this on and you'll never really be able to see it or touch it again. But I guess they've at least given you the option. So as you can see, I've got a standard 360 radiator installed there. We'll just zoom in and have a look. Now I do like it how they have given you a bunch of holes, and now they're just not little holes, they're actually the little slits. I would probably prefer them to be a little bit longer, but you're kind of tight with room. But it's always good when you have the slits, because I found out that I could slide this the top radiator and the bottom radiator, not much, but I could just slide them a few millimeters up and a few millimeters down. And when you're doing a whole water cooled system like this, it really does make a huge difference, especially up in the top when you're trying to fiddle around with your 8-pin EPS and some connectors up the top. Just covering the bottom, it's always good to have a look at how the feet are. Now you can't actually seem to let's see if I can get to these feet. Yeah, it seems like the feet are stuck on. I wouldn't say that's probably the best idea. It's always good to have the screw in there, because you can remove them, swap them out. But yeah, these are definitely stuck on. I can hear them starting to peel off, and there's definitely no screw going through those. So it's not a huge big deal. They are really nice thick rubber, so they're not going to scratch anything. They do tend to leave a mark here and there if you do have a white desk, so just bear in mind they will maybe leave a few black marks. And as I covered before, there's your fan filter underneath. So we'll just have a look behind the motherboard tray to see how much room we've got there. Just one more thing before I turn around. When you do take all the optical drives and the hard drive bays out, you do have a heap of screws. I think there's over about 30 all up. So if you do that, make sure you keep them, because a lot of them are sort of a lot of low profile. Some of the plastic screws, some of the hard screws, some are countersunk. So you do have a lot in there. So if you do want to sort of reverse it and put it back, you're probably not going to want to do it too often, because it does take a bit of time. Just make sure you do keep all those screws. Alrighty, so now before you say this looks like one hell of a mess, I've kind of done this just for the purpose of the video. Plus I really had no time to sort of cable management because we didn't really see this when it was on show. I've just sort of thrown it all in. Pretty much did a really quick job just to show you sort of how much room there is behind this motherboard tray. If you actually look, see if we can see that, you can actually fit quite a lot of cables. Let me just get a screwdriver. So that's how much room is behind the motherboard tray. So that's actually quite a bit in terms these days. Most cases give you a very little, which is a bit disappointing sometimes because for just an extra few centimetre or two can make all the difference. So let's see, we have a huge cutout. So this would probably be a cutout for, so you can fit dual CPU boards. It'd actually be pretty sweet to actually build a dual CPU board in it because you do have all the room. And if you are running a few SSDs, you can get rid of the hard drive bays and just sort of throw them down the bottom. So we do have plenty of your grommets all the way down the side, and then we've got some grommets down the bottom as well. Now you do actually get this nifty little sort of box here. So this will take 1 Molex of power, and then you can plug in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fans. So now that comes stationed there, and I believe you can move it. You can move it down below here as well. There's two more points there. So they're just mounted by your standard motherboard mounts. Then this top one comes pre-installed. So that's pretty sweet that they do that. Now you do have plenty of cable management holes up the top here. Now these ones aren't grommets, they're just sort of cuts because the case kind of comes down and then it comes down, out and down. So you do have a bit of room here to hide some cables. Now lastly, you do get plenty of little cable tie mounts. So if we have a look in here, you've got plenty of spots just here as you can see, and then just here, so you can just put your motherboard, not your motherboard, your zip ties around like I've done, and just grip some cables. So it would have been nice if they did have some backup SSD spots behind here. Now I reckon you do have the room. There's tons of room down there. I think smaller cases with less room give you that option, so it just would have been sweet to do that. And then you can see down the bottom there's just tons of room down here as well. Okay, so lastly, before we wrap up this review, I'll just turn it on and we'll just have a look at some of the gear I put in and some of the water cooling options I went with. Let's turn it up here, it's a bit closer. So pretty much what I did to get this lighting effect is, we'll just turn off one of the lights. So once you put the side panels on, I might be able to turn another light off. Okay, so you can see that it really sort of highlights the white. This isn't white tubing, it's white pastel coolant in here. I really love this pastel. This is the EK stuff. It really gives it that nice depth feel. So I've added just a standard white LED strip along the top. Now I've gone out with the white Antec fans, which I said before. These fans are really nice. They've got the 2-speed option on the fan. It sort of hangs off a bit, the low and high. I've got all these at high. You can barely hear the system, and it's actually pushing quite a bit of air. So I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fans in there, so there's plenty of air circulating around this case. Now we're going with a huge bits of power reservoir just to sort of show off the size of the system and how much you can fit in. I guess if you are going with a larger motherboard and more options, you might have to go a slightly smaller reservoir. Now some people have sort of mentioned this in photos I've done. This was just sort of a cheap option because we are thinking about going a second video card. So if we do that, I just did this rather than making it nice and symmetrical with the rest of it, just to keep that option for the second video card. So this video card in here is the Asus Strix 970. So it is relatively short. Most people think they're the same as a 980, but they are much shorter. You can see it doesn't even go past the or in line with the motherboard. And this is the Bits Power Strix 970 block as well. Now if you look at the CPU block, I might just turn the light back on. You can probably see it reflecting. This is the Bits Power Summit, which is the full copper, which has been chrome plated, and you can really see how nice that looks. I really do love this block. And then we just got the Avexia memory Blitz 101, which is going crazy in there, which is blinking. You can't actually set the light pattern sequence or anything, which is a little bit of a shame, but it's still sweet memory as well. We got the Rampage 4 Extreme. It's getting a little bit old now, the X79, but it's still a sweet board. And then we just got some Sound Blaster sound card, which I'm actually not sure what it is. It's one of the latest ones that comes with the external round knob to control certain things. And then we just got XSPC rads. I would have preferred bits power, but unfortunately it's really hard to get the bits power radiators at the moment. There's such low stock. And then we just threw in the 2 Intel SSDs, and then we've got a Kingston SSD up the top. And I think that's pretty much it for covering this case. It would be easier to cover the empty case, but I do like to cover things that are inside. You can actually sort of get the feel of the whole system, and you can really see how there is plenty of room up in the top there for different radiators like your 360s, because a lot of cases say they support dual 360s, but sometimes you can only have one or the other, whereas this one's got plenty of room to fit one all the way along and then all the way up there. And you can see that I've still got plenty of room for tubing and come down, because I've actually even got an extender on here just to try and make this parallel with the CPU block. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Probably next up, what we're going to do for the Antec review is we're going to review this power supply, not just now, but we'll do that later on, just to show you how cool these ones look and some of the features you get. But yeah, apart from that, I want to thank Antec for sending out this case, and stay tuned for the next videos, and thanks for watching.